Hello, and welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 60, and it is the final movie of the 1935 Oscars. Again, this is the 8th Oscar ceremony ever. And at the time, they were still calling this Outstanding Production rather than Best Picture. And the ceremony the ceremony happened on March 5th, 1936. So the movie I watched this time, which was the Best Picture Outstanding Production winner, was Mutiny on the Bounty. And I was able to find this one on the Internet Archive, so it was free. Yay. With this one, I think last time my average per movie this round was $4.12. This one being free brings it down to $3.78. So for 12 movies, an average of $3.78 each. That's not bad. Now let's look at my total so far. So up to this point, total minutes watched 5,889, which is that is 98 hours and 9 minutes of movies watched for this so far. The total I have spent on movies up to this point is $192.54. And the total average is $3.26. If you throw in the DVD player I bought early on in this, the total is $224.60 with an average of $374. So still not bad overall price wise. I'll take that all day if I got to watch. In the end, it's going to be a lot of money, but I love movies and I love watching movies, and I've never minded paying for movies. So, $3 and whatever is better than $20 at a theater. So I'll take it. So, Mutiny on the Bounty. Mutiny on the Bounty is a 1935 American historical adventure drama film directed by Frank Lloyd and produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Dramatizes the mutiny of the HMS Bounty and is adapted from the novels Mutiny on the Bounty and Men Against the Sea by Charles Nordhoff and James Norman Hall. Stars Charles Laughton as William Bligh, Clark Gable as Fletcher Christian, Franchot Tone as Roger Byam, based on Peter Heywood. Despite historical accuracies, the film was a huge box office success, becoming the highest grossing film of 1935 and one of MGM's biggest hits of the 1930s. Film was also a major critical success and received a leading 8 nominations at the 8th Academy Award, winning Best Picture. This film is, as of 2023, the last Best Picture winner to win in no other category, following the Broadway Melody and Grand Hotel. It is the only film to have 3 Best Actor nominations. As a result of this, a Best Supporting Actors category was created for the Oscars, beginning with the following year's ceremony. There you go. So it was nominated for and won Best Picture, nominated for Best Director. Gable, Laughton, and Franchot Tone were all nominated for Best Actor, Best Writing Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and Best Music Scoring. This story has been remade a couple times. There's another one in the, I think, 60s with Marlon Brando as Fletcher Christian, and then The Bounty, which is the only version I had ever seen, with Anthony Hopkins as Bligh and Mel Gibson as Fletcher Christian. I always get like the handsome dude to play for Fletcher Christian. So, and this one was no different. Let's see. Produced by Frank Lloyd and Irving Thalberg. Cinematography by Arthur Edison. Edited by Margaret Booth. Music by Herbert Stothart. Distributed by MGM. Release date November 8th, 1935, and a runtime of 132 minutes. So there's a lot of information on the Wikipedia page here. I'm not going to go through the story. The basic story is this group of sailors, some of them criminals that were forced to be sailors, are taking a 2-year trip to the West Indies and back to get breadfruit from the islands there, and breadfruit seedlings to bring back to England basically so that they can grow them. And this is a true story, but basically so that they can grow them to use as cheap food for slaves, is what I read in another area, not in this Wikipedia. So, I've said in a couple of these episodes that Charles Lawton has uh, basically, because of this year of movies, has quickly become my favorite actor of the 30s. And I got to say, Clark Gable, he was in another movie, It Happened One Night, that I reviewed. The only, and I said then, the only kind of image of him I'd ever had was from Gone with the Wind, which I haven't seen, but will get to eventually. And he always seemed like sort of a stuffy older actor to me. That was the impression I had. But in these movies, he's obviously a bit younger, only a few years, but still younger. But he's very charismatic, very, he can be funny at times. And especially in It Happened One Night, that was basically like a romantic comedy. He was very funny in that. So I am impressed with him as well. But Charles Lawton was also in Les Mis and Ruggles of Red Gap this time around. He was in a couple other movies that I've watched as well. So, yeah, I was expecting to like this one because of Lawton and because I know the story of the bounty and it's a good story. And I expected it would be good, and it was. So Lawton was great. Gable was great. Everybody was really good in this. And it was a little long, but it didn't feel long, which is good. Some of these older movies do. This one definitely held my attention a lot better than some of the other ones have. And it's something that I'm kind of annoyed with myself as I hear these episodes, as the episodes have been released and I listen to them because I like the sound of my own voice, I guess. But I also want to kind of learn from them. I'm kind of annoyed with myself. I hear myself saying a lot. And even in these most recent episodes, I hear myself saying a lot that I was distracted. I didn't pay attention because the movie didn't catch my interest and stuff. So, and it's phones and attention spans have diminished, and I have fallen prey to that. So I'm going to try to be better because it annoys me. But anyway, I digress. So, I think I liked Charles Lawton a little bit better as Javert in Les Mis. And that's partly because Les Mis is my favorite musical. Obviously, this was not a musical version of it, but it's a good story. And he really was amazing in that as Javert. And he's very good in this, but I think the problem with Captain Bligh, is that, and this, I'm just going off of this and the version with Anthony Hopkins, it's sort of a one note character. Like he's the villain, but he's sort of a one note villain. Like he's not like a cool villain. Actors nowadays want to play a villain. He's not like Darth Vader or somebody that everybody's kind of like, oh, the villain was the cool guy in that. He's just an asshole. He's overly strict. He's just a dick to all his crew. And for that reason, and for the fact that they're on the ocean for so long and they probably go a little crazy, they mutiny against him. And there's not really anything sort of redeeming about Bligh at all. And so it may just be that it's not as likable a character, and Javert's not either in Les Mis, really. But Lawton is great in both. So I'm not taking anything away from this performance. I think that I just still liked Les Mis slightly better for him. So yeah, I really like this one. I think I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I would consider watching this one again, which I think is for me is a testament of how good a movie is, especially these older ones. Let's see a little bit extra info from Wikipedia. The film was originally conceived as a starring vehicle for Wallace Beery, who I also like. He's been in several movies I've watched, as Bligh, and Robert Montgomery as Byam, but both were replaced before production began. Clark Gable was initially opposed to playing Christian since it meant shaving his trademark mustache. Charles Lawton, who had a severe self-image complex concerning his weight and unattractive looks, suffered horribly in comparing himself to the handsome, masculine Clark Gable. Lawton would constantly watch his own walk, gestures, and face, making sure not to let his complex be projected. During pre-production, Lawton discovered that Bly's tailoring establishment still possessed one of Bly's original transaction records, which contained the price as well as the measurements and type of material of his uniforms. At Lawton's request, the tailor used the records to reproduce Bly's uniforms. That's pretty cool. James Cagney, then on a hiatus from Warner Brothers during a contract dispute, and future stars David Niven and Dick Hames were uncredited extras in the movie. Cagney is clearly visible toward the beginning of the film. He was sailing his boat near where the film was shooting near Catalina Island. Director Frank Lloyd was an old friend of his, and Cagney asked him if he could play a small part in the film, saying jokingly, "I need the money." Lloyd had Cagney dressed in a crewman's clothes and put him in the background of a few scenes. Second unit camera operator Glenn Strong was killed after a barge the crew was used capsized off San Miguel Island. There's a lot in here about historical accuracy and or inaccuracy. I'm not going to go into all that. Other film versions. A 1962 3-hour plus widescreen Technicolor remake starring Marlon Brando. Oh my God. Starring Marlon Brando as Fletcher Christian and Trevor Howard as Captain Bligh was a disaster both critically and financially at the time. Nonetheless, good to know. Nonetheless, the remake was nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. In 1984, Mel Gibson played Christian opposite Anthony Hopkins as Bligh in a film based not upon the Nordhoff Hall novels, but on a historical work by Richard Hoff called The Bounty. This latest version, which gives a far more sympathetic view of Bligh, is considered to be the closest to historical events. That also has Daniel Day-Lewis in it. The 1935 version was itself not the first film account of the mutiny. In 1933, an Australian film entitled In the Wake of the Bounty with the then unknown Errol Flynn as Fletcher Christian was released, but was not successful and received few bookings outside Australia. Yep. Anyway, it was good. And I would watch this one again. So I do have a snubbed movie that I'm going to review that you'll hear in a few days. And I'm still not going to reveal it. You'll have to wait. And then it's on to the 1936 Oscars. And I've already found I'm going to have to rent several of these again, and I did just buy one on DVD today. And it was expensive. It was like $20 on Amazon. It was the only place I could find it. I do not love that, but hopefully the rest will be cheaper. But one of these is also available on the Internet Archive. And then there's one on Prime, one on Tubi, one on YouTube. So I got to try to watch those quickly because sometimes those things disappear. Anyway, moving on to the next year of the Oscars. If you've been listening, thank you. If you haven't, why not? Why aren't you listening right now? And obviously you can't hear this because you're not listening. But anyway, I'll see you next time. Later.